Hi, everyone. Dr. Frankie Bashan here. Hope you're all doing really well. I am freezing today. So hopefully wherever you are, you're not cold. I'm just like, can't seem to get warm. But um, I am checking out all these amazing questions that I'm going to dive into momentarily. But before we do that, I want to encourage you to join Venus by going to welcometovenus.com and downloading the app. It's free, but it's free for a limited time. So get it, go to welcometovenus.com and submit questions so that I can answer. I love being able to share my wisdom with you all. And I've been, it's 25 years as a clinical psychologist and a board certified sex therapist and a relationship expert and the CEO of a matchmaking company that's national. It's been 17 years. So I know a lot about relationships. So let's just jump in right now. Patty wrote in and said, I was in a long-term relationship where I loved my partner so intensely that I completely lost myself. I was the one constantly giving, always adapting to their needs, always running to keep the connection alive because they had their own avoidant issues. By the time it ended, or even as I started to step back, I realized I had no idea what desire actually felt like for me anymore. Everything I thought was wanting someone had been about survival, about holding us together. Now that I'm healing and learning to breathe on my own, I find myself wondering, how do I even recognize authentic desire when it's not tied to fear or obligation? Wow, this is so good. First of all, I'm thrilled, Patty, that you've arrived at this place where you recognize that being in a relationship, because you're describing codependency, is not about you doing all the work to keep the relationship together and like adapting your needs and morphing into your partner's needs and ways of living to make it work. When you recognize you're a separate being and boundaries are important and you have worth and value, and that you don't have to be in this enmeshed relationship where you're both two independent people that have different desires and different interests and different needs. So your question is like, how do you recognize authentic desire when it's not tied to fear or obligation or jumping in and trying to make everything work, make it work no matter what? So I think first of all, you want to slow down, really slow down, and not jump in so quickly. I imagine in the past, it moved fast, right? You like somebody and then you just jump into doing the work and making all the things work out. You want to be communicating what needs are important to you and seeing how it lands. How does it land? Is it workable? Making sure to honor what's important to you, your experience, what your values are. Really looking closely at it on a daily basis, keeping a journal, writing down what's important to you. What kind of relationship do you want to have? What kind of boundaries do you need to set that you have history now? You have past relationships that you can use as a model of what you want to do, you want to see more of, and what you want to see less of. Use that to inform you and guide you. And you got to track yourself. So keep a journal and be checking in daily, because it's very easy to go back into autopilot and start to make things work, because that's going to be your default. That's sort of like your Achilles heel. So you want to be on top of it and be changing that pattern of behavior. And the only way to do that is to notice it, continue to monitor it, and replace it with different behaviors. And with the kind of behavior that you are struggling with, where you sort of you just let go of yourself, always running to keep the connection alive because they had avoidant issues. So recognize your attachment style and stay steady in what's important to you. Like, don't try to, compromise to your detriment. I mean, it's important to be willing to compromise in relationship, but also you don't want to lose yourself. So as you're going along, you also want to work with a therapist who can keep it real with you and notice when maybe you're even lying to yourself, because we do it all the time, because we want to lean into what's familiar, behavioral patterns, types of, people that we're drawn to. Maybe the next person that you would be best with would be a securely attached person. try to not date somebody who has attachment struggles. Find somebody who's secure and then see how your system reacts to the fact that this person doesn't need you to do all these things to keep them connected to you. They're steadily connected to you because their nervous system is calm and they don't have these fears about abandonment or loss. So get into therapy, journal, self-monitor, and move slowly so that you can pay attention. You're noticing everything that comes up. You're not going to miss there's going to be blind spots. You're able to identify the blind spot and not miss an opportunity to do something differently so you have a much more positive outcome. Thanks, Patty, for your question. Okay, Camille, this is a long one. Here we go. I've been in a committed relationship for 7 years, but I recently started a new job and have a huge crush on one of our clients. The client is unusually attractive, one of the most beautiful women, one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen, to the point that my sexuality was reconfirmed the moment I saw her. And then I fantasized about her while having sex with my girlfriend, and it was the best sex I've had in years. I feel so guilty, and I also can't stop thinking about her. I only met her one time. I even did a light Google search on her when I came home, but I stopped myself from going deeper. I would never cheat on my girlfriend, and my girlfriend is extremely sensitive to cheating after her last relationship. My girlfriend is also very beautiful, and I love her for so many other reasons. But for our relationship, it hasn't been perfect, which is why we haven't gotten engaged. Over the years, whenever I was really frustrated by her behavior, I'd fantasize about meeting a better version of her and getting with them instead. My plan is to wait it out until the novelty wears off and I take the client off the pedestal I put her on. Hold on here. I think some things changed when I took the questions out. But anyway, I'm getting the gist. So I take the client off the pedestal. Okay. I don't know how frequently I will see her. I plan on actively looking for her flaws to humanize her in my brain, but I don't. I know why I'm attracted to her. Am I secretly hoping my wish came true? Am I guilty of manifesting it? Am I looking for a safe way out? Am I scared of destroying my relationship or hurting my partner? Or do I have to get used to having a hot client for once? Okay, so many questions. I don't know that I'm going to be able to attack them all or address them all, I should say. But I can tell you that, first of all, fantasizing is absolutely normal. It happens. I think that it's not problematic if it's not something that you're continuing to fantasize about. You want to stay connected to your partner. And if you're regularly fantasizing about another person specifically, especially if they're real, they're a person that you interface with on a regular basis, I think it can be dangerous. It can be a slippery slope because the fantasy can evolve. And you want to figure out how to stay focused on your partner unless you have an agreement that you have an open relationship where if the fantasy started to become more of a reality, that would be acceptable, that you do it with, within permission of the relationship, whether it's a poly relationship or an ethical non-monogamous relationship. But so I want you to not be really giving yourself too much trouble for naturally sometimes fantasizing about somebody else. It's normal. You can't, your brain is just, right? We're attracted to people. Just because we choose to be in a relationship with one person and we think or we're attracted to somebody else doesn't mean we're cheating on them. It means that it's just the way our bodies work, right? Our minds work. So I think, what is the other thing here? So it's natural, right? Whenever you're really frustrated in the relationship to, by your partner's behavior, you've been together 7 years. There are things that are going to annoy the shit out of each other. This is just how it goes. And the longer you're together, the more work it takes to keep the relationship alive. And there are more things that you have to accept about each other that are maybe annoying, that you just kind of used to have more tolerance for it and more patience. And oftentimes those are things in the beginning of the relationship that really actually you liked that then end up being really annoying. That's just totally normal. So you've got to actively work on it and figure out, can I accept these things about my partner, or am I forcing something that actually doesn't work for me? So it sounds like you would wait it out. You wait it out so the novelty wore off, and then the client would not be on a pedestal anymore. And you don't know how frequently, um, you try to find ways to find flaws in them. So you're trying to bring yourself back to the relationship. Um, and you're terrified that they'll somehow meet and your girlfriend will be able to tell that you're attracted to her. So I think it would be helpful to communicate too if your girlfriend knew that you were really committed to the relationship and that you actually are very mindful of the fact that she has some trust issues. She's been cheated on in the past, that you would never do that to her, and that you feel like she could handle understanding or hearing that you sometimes fantasize that this comes up for you and it makes you feel uneasy and uncomfortable, then you can share that with her. Or you can choose to not share that with her and share it with your therapist so that you can process it. So you're not sitting there feeling like you're holding secrets. Like, am I secretly hoping my wish came true? Like all these wonderings and these concerns, you'd be able to process with a therapist, somebody who's objective, who has a lot of experience working with, people, interpersonal relationships, an expert in human behavior, so that they're able to let you know that like a lot of this stuff is just normal and natural. And they're unbiased. So they're there to really be a support person and a container for you to share and get clarity and continue. Like there's a lot of, I feel like people that are hopping out of relationships or ending relationships prematurely because they're being told that if it's too much work, then it's not the right relationship, or they're feeling like there's more options out there now with dating apps so that they can just swipe. Why would they bother? I feel like we need to work on the relationships that we've already invested in. And this is a relationship you've been in for 7 years. It's been committed. And it's not going to be easy to keep it alive unless you do the work. And you've got to communicate and you've got to stay honest. It doesn't mean you have to tell your partner everything, but you've got to make sure that you're staying in the relationship. And if this could be a slippery slope, like I mentioned earlier, you want to course correct. You want to redirect your focus to your relationship, figure out what is not working in the relationship. If it keeps coming up and it's really getting to the point where you're like doing micro cheating, which you can look, I've talked about micro cheating as well, but like you want to make sure you're not moving into micro cheating because you want to be respectful and loyal and committed to this person who's committed to you. But remember, having fantasies and thoughts is totally normal and natural. And yeah, do you have to get used to having hot clients? Yeah. So this won't be the last hot client. There's a lot of hot people in the world. So what do you do about that? It's about having good boundaries and refocusing, putting your energy and attention into what you've already invested in, which is your committed relationship. Figure out how to make it exciting, make it interesting. Also, deepen intimacy by maybe having some more difficult conversations where you make sure that it's very clear that you have no intentions of breaking up, that you're sharing because you want her to be in on some of your experience, and you're feeling uncomfortable that this is happening and it's causing you to feel like, in some ways fears of cheating, and it allows your partner to be part of your journey and to understand what's happening for you. So there's not one way to approach it, but I do think you've got to really make sure to check in with yourself because you're going to have all sorts of hot clients, and having good boundaries is what's important. And I don't hear that you're going out with them for dinners or calling them outside of work or anything like that. I hear that your mind is kind of taking you to places that make you uncomfortable, and it's normal. So thanks so much for your question. I've got one more. Let's see if I can do this. Kelly writes, is it normal to not really feel like feminine? I like being a woman. I don't feel drawn to masculine or gender neutral pronouns. When I dress femininely, I feel like I'm in cosplay. I didn't feel like I could relate to most girls growing up. I had no interest in makeup or shopping. And I was also different by way of always being the tallest kid in class. I've always been at least a little bit overweight too. My career now is male dominated, although I have never felt like one of the boys either. I see hyper feminine women and I get gender envy, which is weird because why am I feeling gender envy for my own gender? I'd love nothing more than to feel cute and effortlessly feminine, but those kinds of girls feel almost like a totally different gender to me. I know that femininity is not necessarily to be a woman at all, and maybe I'm responding to pressures of conformity. All I want is to feel feminine. So is it normal to not really feel feminine? That's the question. So there is, Kelly, a whole continuum in terms of gender expression, femininity, masculinity, and all of it is normal. We tend to make things very black and white, humans do, and it doesn't consider folks like you that sort of don't fall completely in the feminine category. And there's nothing wrong if you say you're, somewhat feminine or maybe more androgynous, gender neutral. Like there's all these terms and it's like if you feel feminine and you feel good in the way that you present, whether it's feminine or not feminine, but it matches how you feel inside, it's aligned, how you're expressing yourself externally, matching how you feel internally, that's what matters. It becomes an issue when you're not able to fully express the way that you feel gender-wise, internally, externally, because of societal pressures or familial pressures or religious pressures, things like that. That's when I would get concerned. But like you are beautiful just the way you are. And you don't have to fit into any kind of specific mold or model or societal beliefs of, if you are a woman that you should be feminine. No, you can be a woman who's not super feminine. In fact, I sometimes am feminine and sometimes I'm more boyish, depend on the day and how I'm feeling. So hopefully I answered your question. And I feel like I wish that we lived in a society that could just be like, you could just be who you are. And we all just recognize that the variety and the range in expression is so beautiful because we're different and nuanced and it keeps it interesting and fun. So thanks, Kelly, for your question. And I will see all of you next week. Thank you so much. Okay, sis. Hugs. Bye, everyone.